What's going on YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just BSN podcast. We got episode 12. Andrew, how are we doing? Obviously, we had a weird week last weekend, but how are we feeling this week?
I'm hopeful. I mean, last week wasn't the best of times. We still lost, but I say hopeful just because Joe Flacco for his first game off of the couch, he looked really good and really
Mm-hmm.
comfortable and looked really solid. So besides the pick that he threw, but obviously
Yeah,
he admitted that was a big mistake. But I mean, it's a veteran, so he's gonna know that was a huge mistake. But no, I feel hopeful for this week.
absolutely. I think he proved that he can at least run the offense. It was
Hmm.
obviously a little bit of trial and error because you got to see what's going to work for the guy and what's not going to work for him. And I think the Browns did fine through three quarters. In that fourth quarter, they just kind of ran out of gas and also just couldn't execute and just kind of got into a blender after that that pick that pretty much sealed the deal. And it stinks because obviously he really did play a pretty good game. Like he played a fine game.
He
He
did.
threw for two scores, so that's all you can ask for it. And we couldn't really establish the run, which I'm obviously going to talk about a little bit here later. But first thoughts on Flacco is I think he can run the offense, and I think he should be the one that starts from here on out. Um, it's just the question becomes: does Stefanski keep him the full time starter? Do they add in some packages with DTR because you can very well do that too, and I think that would be smart as well. Um, there's some options there now. So I think it gives Stefanski a little bit of leniency to be a little more creative with the playbook that he originally designed for Watson.
Yeah, I think you could throw some stuff in with DTR, maybe like even if it's something simple like some like goal line stuff, or because you could utilize those legs in the goal line offense, or even utilize those legs in more of like a short down situation. I mean, there's ways to incorporate DTR, but I agree. I think Joe Flacco has to be the main guy going forward now because you can't let a guy who throws for 260, two touchdowns, has the best game of your quarterbacks this season, and then just bench him for the rest of the time being for a fifth round rookie. I think this is perfect for DTR to watch what an NFL Super Bowl MVP does and watches what he does and keeps a close eye on like this is the throws I should have made. These are the throws I need to make. I shouldn't force balls. I shouldn't have to force this and whatnot. And I mean, every pass that Joe Flacco made was a smart pass. Obviously, again, the drop issue is still going on because there's some throws he made that were right on the money and they were, again, just dropped. So those are things to fix. But I think right now this is Joe Flacco's team till the end of the season, including through the playoffs. And I think this is just a perfect situation for DTR to go up to Joe Flacco and just ask him questions and like go over stuff and be a solidified backup because again, this is probably Joe Flacco's only time he's going to play this season. And if we make the playoffs, he's going to play in the playoffs, and then you're probably just going to dump him because now at that point, Deshaun's coming back next season. He should be fully healthy. So I think you just ride the Joe Flacco wave until you make the playoffs, or if you make the playoffs and you bounce out the playoffs, or
Yeah.
because I think what wins this for the Browns is just that veteran presence, and especially now with everyone in the NFL down and injured, like all these quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence went down, Joe Burrow went down. Lamar's been hobbling every single game because he keeps taking shots, and it looks like he could go down anytime soon. Kenny Pickett's down. All these big time quarterbacks are going down, and right now I'm sure everyone is sitting there wishing they had a veteran like Joe Flacco on their team that is smart, a Super Bowl MVP, was MVP candidate for a lot of his career. He's a guy that you would want on your team right now because he with how beat up the NFL is, especially the where we are in the American League or whatever. He could definitely he could definitely win you the AFC for sure.
Absolutely. And it I was a little nervous because I just didn't know what he had left in the tank. And to be honest, he definitely showed that he has plenty left in the tank. His
He
arm looks
does.
great. Like AVP was not joking. His arm looks good. I mean, he was a little bit, off on, on some throws. Obviously, the pick was not a great throw. It was definitely underthrown. I don't know if he just didn't have that timing down with Elijah yet, which again is going to happen in these scenarios. So that's why I wasn't too worried. It stinks because the Rams were a team that I really thought we could beat, but I'm curious to see what Kevin Stefanski can do now with a pocket quarterback.
Hmm.
He's had sort of a scrambler guy that just didn't have a bigger arm besides Brissett, but I mean Brissett didn't have a big arm.
Yeah.
He was just pretty. He was average. Like it wasn't like he was anything pretty. So, uh, just seeing him with a now pocket quarterback, I'm very curious to see um, what his offense is going to look like for this. And I think that's why people need to pump pump the brakes on the Stefanski hate. I'm getting really sick of how we lose a game, it's blame Stefanski. When we win a game, praise Stefanski. You got to pick one or the other. You can't keep jumping off and on this ship. He's the head coach. He's going to be here for next year. That's already a guarantee, in my opinion. And I feel like they're going to end up extending him after this year because he has done way more than probably any other guy that we could have had with the team that we've had this year. With all the injuries that we have had, it just kind of frustrates me to no end that um, people are continuously uh, badgering Kevin Stefanski. He's not perfect, all right. He doesn't have the greatest, play calls throughout the entire game. Like, dude, I'm sorry, but like, no head coach or no play caller is gonna have a pitch perfect game every single game. Of course, you're gonna have nice, smoother games, but there's gonna be times where the opposing team is going to do their homework and they're going to make it tough and you got to be able to adjust. And I think that's everybody's only real criticism that I will agree with when it comes to Stefanski is sometimes it seems like his lack of adjustments are there or just lack thereof. That is one thing that I want to see with him more. But I don't think this team is lacking any confidence. It sounds like everybody is still high hopes even after that loss. I think AWalk was the one who said it this week, but they said they feel a lot closer after the trip to LA. So whatever they did, even after that game, the team is still good morale wise. I think they feel good with Flacco as their quarterback, and now you're getting key guys back, which is going into my next point. It sounds like we're going to get Ward back, which is huge for this defense, considering how much we've struggled since he's been out. Cam uh, Mitchell, I think is the kid's name. He's the rookie.
Yeah.
He also can come back as depth, and you can get that Mike Ford kid out of here. My God, has he been brutal every week? He's been the one getting absolutely gassed. Um, and Newsom didn't have a great week. I think it was against Denver, but Michael Ford has been a literal liability when it comes to him being on the field. He needs to be a special teams guy, and that's it.
Well,
Um,
I think that's why Newsom was so bad, especially these last couple of weeks, because he's trying to cover for Mike Ford
yeah,
as well as his guy, and he's almost like doing double because it's like, well, shit, now I have to guard two men because Mike Ford's getting cooked. I have to figure out who I'm gonna mark now because if I don't mark one of them, then I'm gonna get cooked, and then
yeah,
it becomes a whole nightmare because then Juan Thornhill's got to figure out which ones he's going to, and there's a and without a guy like Denzel, there's a lot of miscommunication in that secondary because I mean, yeah, the only one who's playing really well is Martin Emerson,
yeah,
and I think Martin Emerson. When Denzel's out, you put Martin Emerson on the best guy on the field, the
yeah.
best receiver, and then you put Newsom on the number two, and then you put Ford on the number three. But now you have Denzel coming back, which definitely bolsters defense because I've seen stats all over where the Browns' run defense and passing defense are 10 times better when Ward is on the field and his presence on the field is there compared to they give up double when he's off the field. So definitely having Denzel back is the biggest key because, and I think he brings that level of swagger with that
Yeah.
defense too. And I think that's what they've been missing for the last couple of weeks when he's been out is that level of swagger, which is what they've been using to get to the quarterback, what they've been using to get interceptions and fumbles and such. And with them off the field, that team looks sloppy. It looks disorganized. It just looks uninteresting. Like they're not interested or so.
Yeah, it's like a lack of aggression or
Yeah.
something. And I, especially during the Broncos game and really too last week, obviously, like the defense just didn't seem like they really wanted to be there almost. It was so
Yeah.
weird. And I know Miles is obviously trying to fight this shoulder, but he was literally like he did nothing last game. And
Yeah.
that was unfortunate because like when he's not 100% and you can tell, it's such a different defense and it
Hmm.
stinks. This always happens, it seems like, around the same time of the year where Miles gets a bump and he still plays, but he doesn't play to his ability because he's not able to. Um, it genuinely hurts the defense. It makes the offenses be able to game plan a little more smoothly, and they don't have to necessarily worry about him and can run their offense. Um, we need just some aggression. Like we really do need to start bringing out some more blitz packages or something. Jim Schwartz has to start getting creative again because these base defenses that we're running right now are just not going to cut it. I think another big loss that we really don't talk about on this defense too much is that McLeod, dude. Like Ronnie McLeod was a big, just
Hmm.
rotational guy for us. I think he was very big with our comms as well, and him being down to like now you're averaging more like two safeties, and that's really it. So Hickman isn't really seeing the field. David Bell really, or not David Bell, the other Bell kid. Uh, he's a safety for us too. He's mainly special teams, so you don't really see him on on the field as
Oh,
well.
D'Anthony Bell. D'Anthony
Yeah,
Bell.
I'm honestly really shocked we didn't try to go after that Amos kid,
Hmm.
just as a veteran presence. And I wouldn't be surprised if they try to add somebody, just for depth, uh, there because I don't know what we need on this D defense, but yeah, I mean, as you said, the swagger seems to be just kind of minimal right now, and that's one of the things that made this defense just so nasty was every time they made plays, it was they're hyped, they're ready to go, and it just seems like that's been lacking. And obviously we've lost, but it's not like we've been out of these games, every single time. But these have been this defense's worst two games by far. Puka killed us last week, and he damn near broke his rib. Um, Russell Wilson cooked us last week. I mean, the run defense has been very very bad. So hopefully Ward being able to come back helps us. But like we need to get back to what we know on this defense. And I think once we get that flowing, and then the offense starts to flow a little better now with Flacco, um, it can help. But the other thing that I wanted to note too, and this was a stat that I just saw right before the podcast here. Shout out to the Dogs podcast. They put out a tweet earlier today, and since Watson has been hurt, guys, we have faced a stacked box on 63.5% of the snaps or plays on offense, meaning that our run game has really been getting more honed in on because we did have success prior to his injury. And I've been critical of Jerome Ford because I feel like between the tackles, the kid just doesn't have uh, the vision that you need for a running back, and it's obviously having some sort of effect on his game. But when he's out on open space, Jerome Ford is great, but Hunt has been literally non-existent. I mean, I know he's been fighting a thigh and here and there. So like I get it, but the lack of use of even Pierre Strong and just being creative and in the run game or at least going to what works. It's been also like frustrating in that aspect as well. But again, 63.5% of the snaps, they've been stacking the box on us. That's significantly different from the 41.7% they had with Watson. And that honestly shocks me too, because Watson was more of a scrambler anyway. It wasn't like he enjoys being in the pocket. So that stat really shocked me today. And I'm wondering what Stefanski is going to do now, game planning wise, to open up the run game again and really just open up the whole entire offense in general, and especially now with Flacco. The passing should get better. So even it out on offense, get our defense back to flowing, and we should win this game, whether they play Trevor Lawrence or not, because he's going to be hobbled if he does play. And if he doesn't, you face a backup core, QB, and there should be no excuse. But again, we also beat San Fran with PJ Walker. So anything can happen in this league, but you gotta take the wins that you can get, or that you can get. And unfortunately, last week was one of those games where you really should have won, and they just didn't. They just didn't show up. So I hope that they can bounce back. They're at home. We obviously played a lot better at home, so I do expect a much better game. Like overall, I've been talking for a minute. Hooey.
No, I'm with you, dude. I personally think that when it comes to this game on Sunday, I think what also is going to help you out too is that it's supposed to be cold and rainy, which is something that the Jags are not used to. Obviously, they're used to the rain. Don't get me wrong; it rains a lot in Florida and in Jacksonville, but they're not used to it being 45 degrees outside, or
Flacco is, baby.
And that's the thing. That's why you got Joe Flacco, because this is the type of weather he played in Baltimore. I mean, when you play in the AFC North, this is the consistent weather you play in. It's cold, rain, cold, snow. Like, you got to be ready for the elements. And this is what we talked about when we beat San Fran. The elements really help you, and the elements could help you in this game as well. So, I think, like you said, the run game has to get going in this, especially in this situation. The run game has to get going. Because when it comes to this type of weather, you're going to be relying heavily on that run game. Because if it does pour rain all day long, I doubt Joe Flacco's going to be throwing that ball a whole lot.
Yeah.
And especially with the dropsies that we've been dealing with. Last thing I want is a perfect ball to go slip right through someone's hands and be a pick off and be picked. And, it goes back for a pick six or something crazy. So I think Stefanski's game plan this week is just pound the run game. Because, in all honesty, you almost have no choice due to the weather conditions. But obviously sneak in some passes here and there, some short passes, and let Flacco go to work. Let the run game go off. Go to the run game, and then let Flacco just do his thing. Like, if you do that, that offense is gonna flow smooth. It's gonna be just like the San Francisco game. That offense is gonna be nice and smooth. And then you really just have to rely on you focus on your defense and have your defense make plays, because, again, this weather is going to be detrimental to Lawrence's ankle, and they have to look at that weather report and say, like, look, he already hurt his ankle. Do we want him going out there and slipping and sliding and, shredding that ankle up even more in some dog shit weather? Because what if he goes out and he scrambles and then he slips? There goes his ankle, and that's done. Like, it could cost him the year. And that could cost Jacksonville their season. So I think if Jacksonville were smart, I think you rest Lawrence and allow Beathard to go in, because at least Beathard is healthy. I don't trust the ankle if you're the Jaguars. I don't trust that ankle because, yeah, he looked. I just saw while you were talking, I saw on Twitter of Lawrence running, or not running, but throwing passes. And
he was passing.
He looks to be favoring that ankle a little bit. He's got on a brace too, like a big old brace all down his leg and stuff like that. So,
and on his knee too. His left knee had a brace as well.
So he's favoring that whole leg, and he had a hard time moving that leg a little bit too, and turning with it. And he tried to bend down, he could barely bend down. So if he does go one hit or one run in that weather, it's game over. Like, he could be done for a full season. He could be out for that game and maybe the next couple games. Again, that could be hurtful to Jacksonville's season, because the Browns are one game behind them.
Yeah.
And that one loss puts the Browns into a top 5 spot. Yeah. And you can't afford that. you just can't. And so they have to be very careful. And I think the Browns are going to use that as motivation too, because that defense is going to be ready. That defense is going to try and cram as much as they can to Trevor Lawrence and make him make those throws if he does play, make him get out of the box and make him run and scramble away. Let him take shots from Denzel Ward, let him take shots from, Greg Newsome or, JOK and Anthony Walker. Let those guys make those big tackles.
Yeah.
I, I think as long as the defense does their thing, and again, my game plan for this is the same exact thing as San Francisco. As long as the defense gets going, it's going to be hard to win this game if you're the Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's going to not be an easy game for them, whether
No.
he plays or not. I think the Browns are just going to be a little more pumped up because they're at home. I mean, it again. I said it previously. The Browns just play a lot better at home, and I don't know why we are so different when it comes to being on the from home to the road. But either way, I will take it. But the Browns definitely
Mm.
need a win just for morale, and also just for the fact of 8-5 sounds really, 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 really good. Or sorry, 8-6, right? It'd be 8-6. I don't know.
Let me look. It'd be 8-5.
8-5. Okay, so yeah, that sounds a hell of a lot better than 7-6. Um, it would be great. And it would come at a good time because,
Mm.
after this game, we got the Bears, Texans, Jets, and Bengals. Um, and the way I see it, I mean, Houston is a for sure hard game. The Bears are going to be interesting because they're going to be a little motivated, I think. And I just think they're going to play with a little bit of tenacity and a little bit of grit because they have been all year long. It's just they really can't shut out games, and I think that's been their biggest issue. The Jets, they have a good defense, but obviously are changing quarterbacks every week. They're back to Zach Wilson, and then you obviously have the Bengals who are on Jake Browning, and he had a good game
Mhm.
on Monday night against the Jags. But the Jags defense really didn't look as impressive as I thought it would be. And the Jags really don't scare me, especially now without Christian Kirk. I mean, that alone was a pretty big loss for them. And I think Travis NTN is also questionable right now. He'll probably play, but he's also dealing with some sort of stuff. So this team is a little beat up too, and that could play into our favor, especially because we have these guys on defense that are starting to come back. And not only that, Goodwin seeing sounds like he is going to be back on offense, which will be nice, especially if we are down Cooper, who I think right now is still questionable. I don't know if he is practiced at all this week. I know he didn't practice yesterday. I would assume if he did today, it was very, limited. But he is in concussion protocol, so my guess is Cooper will probably not play. Um, so it's going to be a challenge. But having a guy like Goodwin and Elijah Moore, it could give you a lot of speed on the outside that could really truly benefit us. And I could expect Tillman and Njoku to eat for this game, especially in this type of weather. The big men are going to be the one that shine, and if you can get guys like Hunt, going again, um, this game should be a lock. But again, the Browns defense has to show up. I
Yeah.
really hope that they come ready, and I really hope that Jim Schwartz is like, all right, guys, listen, we've had a few bad weeks. That's fine. This league is a tough league, and the season's long. You are going to have games like this, but now it's time to get back to what we know and what we know best. Let's get after the quarterback. Let's play good against the run. Let's not let them get anything going. Smother them, and then let the offense do just enough to win this game. And I think if we do that, we will win the game. But this defense has to show up. Now, my next thing is, it sounds like Flacco is going to play, or at
Yeah.
least start. But DTR is back. He is out of concussion protocol now. Do you expect them to give him any sort of packages in this game, or do you think they just ride with Flacco?
I think you just have to ride with Flacco. I mean, you can't let a guy who, again, like I said earlier, you can't let a guy who rode for 260 yards, had an insane performance. There were 2 touchdowns. Only one big mistake was that pick. And again, he already, as soon as he threw that ball, you knew he regretted throwing that football. And you knew when he double clutched it, it was bad. Um, you can't, when it comes down to it, you can't just rely on a rookie to take you to the promised land
No.
from here on out. And it's not like he's been playing bad. And that's not my thing. He's playing, I give a lot of props to DTR. He's played well these last few games. But when you have a Super Bowl winning MVP quarterback, you have to ride that wave, especially with the way he played in his first game back. He played so well, and you can't just not give him the opportunity to take you all the way. Like DTR, like if you couldn't sign anybody and DTR had to be the guy you had to go back to, then that's fine. I would ride with DTR to the end.
Yeah.
But you have to go with Joe Flacco. And especially too, because we have to watch out for tonight. For those who don't know, we're recording this on a Thursday night, and it's Thursday night football between the Steelers and the Patriots. So I know the Browns and Flacco and all them are going to be watching tonight, because if the Steelers lose tonight and the Browns win Sunday, Browns go from 6th place in the playoffs to 5th place, and they slowly move up that board. And I'd rather have 5th than 6th. So if you're the Browns, man, you're watching tonight. You're Joe Flacco. You're watching tonight, and then you have to play Joe Flacco for the rest of the year. I mean, you have yes, you have an easy schedule coming up. I mean, what would be an easy schedule? But now you look at Houston. Houston's no laughing matter. I don't think DTR can handle Houston, and the Jets defense is actually not terrible.
No.
Their offense is horrendous, but the Jets defense is actually not that bad. And those are games you can't afford to lose. And for everyone saying, it seems like 10 wins is the magical number.
Yeah.
So you need 3 more wins. Joe Flacco will give you those 3 wins.
Oh,
absolutely. I don't think DTR does. DTR will win you those little scrappy games, I'm sure, like against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are also defeated and deflated and whatnot, but you don't. When it comes down to the stretch, you have to go with the veteran. And I think every Browns fan can admit that they would stick with a veteran quarterback going down the rest of the way. And I've seen it everywhere. You have to go with the vet. So, and the Browns are 5-1 at home too. We have one of the best home records in the league. You should go with Joe Flacco in that situation too, because you just want to win now, and he gives you the best opportunities to win. In my eyes, I think Joe Flacco gives you the better opportunity.
Well, not only that, this is a random fact too. Joe Flacco's like 10-1 in Cleveland Brown Stadium.
Yeah,
that dude only wins there. Like, he just knows the field well. Like, I don't know what it is, but the dude always had success against us.
It's like bringing back Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Like, Ben Roethlisberger only wins in Cleveland, so it's like, for that matter, you start him in Cleveland because he knows how to win in Cleveland.
It's weird. It's like a weird voodoo thing going on, but yeah, I totally agree. I definitely think you ride with Flacco for the most part. I think if you want to bring in, some sort of red zone, package here and there, or throw him in for a few plays, that's fine. Keep, at least
I
give
keep him
the
in
kid,
for the red zone,
because like I don't want to destroy the kid's mental just because he got hurt. But I think it also is important for him to just understand what's going on and be like, listen, Flacco is going to give us a chance here, and we want to go to the playoffs. Like, we still are in it, and this is what the guys want. This is nothing to do with you personally. Do not take it that way. Learn and be ready, because anything can happen, and we will certainly get you some plays. I can easily see them doing some sort of red zone package or set of plays with him just to mix it up. Kind of identical to what we wanted Ohio State to do against that team up north with, Brown. When you have that ability to have a dude that can run some, RPOs in that sort of scenario, it's nice to have. But even on the run, Flacco looked great. I mean, he made quite a few good throws. I was just seeing a few throws on Twitter, and it's when you see those, you're like, man, I don't know how you couldn't want Flacco to just start the rest of the year. I really don't. I don't know how you can look at those throws and say, I don't know. I still want the Rook. And it's like, listen, I get everybody likes him. I love the kid too, and he's going to be a great backup for us for Watson. But this is important for him to learn. Like, let's not break him by playing in these games. Give it to Flacco. He knows what to do. He's a
Mm-hmm.
vet. Don't do anything pretty. And again, I think Flacco fits Stefanski's play calling style, and so I think that's why I'm gonna really enjoy this, because I loved what I saw last week up until that pick, and then I pretty much turned the game off. But Flacco's got it. And if you don't just stick with him, I think Stefanski needs to just put it out there, even after this game, just be like, hey, he's going to be our starter, whatever. But don't make it, dude. That's the only thing I hate about Stefanski. That dude doesn't want to give anybody any hints. It's like, fuck that. Just tell us what you're going to do. Stop doing this like, oh, it's only Monday, let's get through the week and we'll see what happens. Like, no, Stefanski, we know what you're going to do. Like, we're not stupid. Quit trying to play us. We know you well. You've been here for 3.5 seasons now. Come on, let's go. So I'm excited for it. But I do think that DTR does get some reps here, here and there, and it'll be fun to see. I'm really curious.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with the well, at least with the Stefanski, you got to stop playing us. Just come
Yeah.
out straight with it. Like we don't care. Just tell us, dude. Like Joe Flacco's to start from here on out. Cool, thank you. Like stop with this cryptic hidden type shit. Like we just want answers, man. We just want to know what you're gonna do.
Right. It's
All you
like
just
it's not
say
like
is,
you're.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's not like you're tricking
Yeah,
opposing teams. Who gives a shit about that? Quit trying to play chess while they're playing checkers. Blah blah blah. Now let AB do that shit. That's what he does. Don't do all
yeah,
that. Just coach.
yeah. Just coach the team, dude. Like don't get fancy with the shit. Like just stick to what you do, man. Just play football. Just play football, dude.
Mm.
Like we don't care who starts. Just say Joe Flacco's the starter, so we can all just breathe and be like, okay, we know who the starter is. Ooh, I'm excited to see who's starting this Sunday. I don't know who's gonna be. Is it gonna be Flacco? Is it gonna be DTR? Who knows?
No,
We might see PJ Walker instead.
I would throw myself out the window
Oh, I
behind
could
me.
jump into Lake Erie and drown
That
myself.
one, like that one right there. Yeah, I'm jumping out of that.
Yeah,
If PBJ Walker starts on Sunday, I
yeah.
will
See those
visit. Yeah,
windows
yeah, I will
out the window.
visit. Um, yeah, let's just hope that he stops that crap. But it's Stefanski, so he's gonna continue to be a goof, this way. Um,
Yeah,
but again, the one thing that like my total wish list for this game is I just want to see more Pierre Strong. I think every time he gets a shot, he always seems to make some plays. And I just want to see him at a slightly larger capacity. Give him 10 carries and see what he does
yeah,
with it. And that's about what you're giving Hunt. I know. I think Jerome Ford last week, I'm gonna look this up right now. But at one point I saw a stat. Uh, he had like 10 carries for like 7 yards or something, or it was like 7 carries for 10 yards. It was one or the other. Um, it was horrendous,
yeah.
and
9 carries for 19 yards all game against
that's
LA.
horrendous. Like, do the math here. Okay, 19 divided by 9. That's just over 2 yards a carry.
Two
That
point
is
one.
that is horrible. Like
Mind you, Pierre Strong had 2 carries for the same amount of yardage.
yeah.
He had 2 carries for 20 yards, so he had 10 yards per carry.
Oh my goodness.
Kareem Hunt had 12 carries for 50.
Kareem,
So pretty much
Kareem,
double. So Kareem Hunt had the same amount of carries as Ford, pretty much, and doubled his numbers.
So what you really need to do in this scenario is you need to split up Jerome Ford's carries, give half to Reem, or all of them to Pierre Strong, and then give Reem another 5 carries. just call it 20 even, or even around 17 or 18 carries for for Ream, and give
Yeah.
Pierre Strong 10 carries. That's all I ask. If you want Ford to run, to run a few plays, that's fine. But I think he's much better as a pass catcher than anything else. Obviously, he's scored the first score that we had last week, so he's good in that aspect. But running the ball, it's abysmal, and I'm really tired of seeing it. I know he's had some good games. He's had some good runs here and there, but it's just inconsistent. And you have screen grabs of, dude. Last week there was one, that dude Batonio and Jerron had their guys locked out on the left side, and the right side had literally had a hole. It was a gaping hole that literally like a Mack truck would have been able to just cruise through. It was the largest hole I've ever seen, and you're seeing Ford run into Teller, where he's
And you,
blocking somebody.
and you should be able to run against the Jaguars because I'm looking at it now. The Jaguars are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They're about 20th in rushing defense. They give up about 4.5 yards per carry, almost 5 yards per carry, and they've given up 10 touchdowns. So that just tells you that you should be running the ball in this game, but do it with your best runner, and that's Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, do it
Not
with your best
don't
runner.
do it with your best runner. Jerome Ford can get the secondary carries and give some to Pierre Strong too, but let this be Kareem Hunt's offense on
Yeah,
the in the backside.
I just think you've seen enough from Ford to know what you're gonna get right now, and I think
Yeah.
if he wants to be a successful back, he needs more time to sit back and really watch what he does. Um, you have to let Kareem Hunt run the ball more. You have to at least give Pierre Strong some minutes and some snaps in general. Like let him be a part of this offense a little bit and really see what he's got, because he's had plenty of flashes. Um, he just seems bigger and faster too. Like he just, I don't know what it is about Ford and the way he runs. It's just a lack of explosiveness that I just it makes you really miss Chubb. It really
It
makes
does.
you miss Nick Chubb. Um, man, how different this year alone would be, even if we still had him and Watson would have went down. Like, could you imagine Nick Chubb with Flacco? Just
Oh, Nick
like,
Chubb, this would be one of the best offenses in a while.
yeah, it would be weird, but like, it would still be efficient because at least Chubb is guaranteed 4 to 5 yards a carry, and he falls forward for another yard or two every time he gets tackled anyway. You really miss that,
Yeah,
and you just
you
don't
do.
have that with guys like Ford. You have it sometimes with Hunt, but sometimes Hunt, he'll hit the hole hard and he just runs into a brick wall and he just can't go anywhere. Um, so yeah, I just want to see a little bit more of Pierre Strong. Something has to give because I'm tired of Jerome Ford and I'm tired of having this every other week conversation about him. And I feel bad because he was kind of put in a tough spot. But at the same time, this league is a league of opportunity, and if you can't take advantage of that opportunity, guess what? Someone else will, and if they do it better than you, you will never get one again, and that's just how it works. And he better get it together because otherwise, he probably won't even be here for next year. Um, so we'll see, though. I mean, we'll see, but that's what I want to see out of this game. But to switch up a little bit, since we have been talking about the Browns for almost 40 minutes now. Um, Cavs had a nice win last night against the Magic, which I did not expect because, believe it or not, guys, Orlando is actually a pretty solid team, and I for that second year kid scored like 42 for them, and they still lost by double digits. Like the Cavs literally just handled business last night. It was nice to see. Donovan had a big game. I think he dropped 45.
He
So
dropped
that's nice.
35.
35. So the kid played well. I think Darius had like 22 or 26. Struss had
Uh,
over 20. I think he had like 22.
I'm taking a look right
Yeah, I'm
now.
just going off of what I saw last night, so I don't even recall.
Garland had 26, and then
Yeah.
Struess had 17.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it was just a solid game all around. Everybody seemed to you know contribute a little bit, which is nice to see. And it stinks because I have such a conflicting um, feeling about this team because of JB and just how much I just dislike him. And it's nice to see them win. It's great. I like that we're winning, but it still keeps his ass here. And part of me just wants him gone. I think this team would just do so much better if he was gone. But as long as they keep doing this, where they lose a game here and there, and then they win 2 or 3 games here, it's just not going to happen that way, and it's going to continue to be his team. So my question to you is, do you think that this Cavs team is going to be able to keep up the pace right now, or do you think they're going to continue to kind of do this back and forth shit, where they win a few games and then lose a game or two and then win a few more?
I mean, in my sense, as long as they win more than they lose, like if they go on like a 4 game win streak and then lose one, I'm okay with that because you just went 4-1 in those 5 games.
Yeah.
And I'd rather you go 4-1 in a 5 game stretch every time than the complete opposite. I don't want you to go 1 win and then lose 4 straight. Like, and I also don't like the back and forth either. Luckily, looking at their schedule now, they've been kind of going back and forth. I mean, they lost to Miami, then lost to the Lakers, then beat the Raptors and beat the Hawks. Then they lost to the Blazers, then they beat Detroit and then Orlando yesterday. And then they go back to Miami tomorrow. And you actually have the chance to jump Miami in the standings too.
Tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow we face Miami too.
Yeah, so you have the chance to jump them tomorrow in the standings, which would be nice. But again, do you go out there and you go win 3 in a row, or do you go and lose and then win 2 more in a row? So, like, I'm with you. I'm tired of this like back and forth type of shit where it's like, oh, let's win 2, then lose 2, then win 2, then lose 2. Like, go on like a 5 game win streak, and then see what happens. But I think if you start going on a losing streak of any kind, I think you have to consider JB's job, because it just seems like this team has no, like, for some reason last year you were the best defense in the NBA. This year it just seems like you're the worst, because it seems like your defensive team has like no fight in them right now. The defense doesn't have any fight. Like, they do whatever they can to score on offense, but when it comes to defense, it's just like, oh, we'll let you run into the basket. And funny enough, our good friend Nick Padone, he he was actually sitting right next to the mother of one of the officials, and he was gonna he said he was gonna scream at the officials, but he's like, I couldn't because his mom was sitting right next to me. So I was like, I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to get my ass beat or get in trouble.
That's funny.
Oh, and it was hilarious, and I was laughing. I was like, dude, that's kind of funny. Because I was at the game too, but I was obviously up in the like 200 section, so
All right.
so obviously I can sit there and yell at the officials all I want. I'm not sitting behind or in front of the officials' mothers.
That's such a weird crowd too, because you also had Sir Yachty there just eating an onion, and then almost getting kicked out of the game because he was eating an onion.
Well, he was eating an onion next to Adam Silver, who was sitting next to him. So you're just sitting there eating an onion next to the commissioner of the league. Like, last night was weird. Like,
That is such a weird night.
You have Sir eating onions next to the NBA commissioner. Which is probably why he got in trouble. He's like, the guys on the listen, the NBA commissioner is gonna come and sit next to you. Like, we can't have you eat a fucking onion.
Yeah, like they're gonna be like, who the hell are these Cleveland people, and why are they sitting courtside?
Why did we let the All-Star game come here 2 years ago? Like, we should have never let the All-Star game come to this fucking.
Hey man, it did well here. Okay,
It did well, But we can't have people eating fucking onions, raw
No,
onion on the side,
no.
on the behind us.
But hey, you know what? Shout out to Suryati and shout out to Nick because Nick's cool. I went to school with Nick, but so he's the
He's
homie.
cool.
Yeah, he's very very cool. I've talked to Yachty a few times on Twitter. He's super nice too. So like those guys
Yeah,
are all like actually just nice people.
they're just good,
Um,
genuine dudes.
yeah, yeah. So it's always nice to hear them doing stuff.
Although, yeah,
So
does some weird ass shit, man.
dude, Yacht, but he does it for the views, and so I respect
Yeah,
it to a
yeah.
degree because it's like, hey man,
I wouldn't do
you're
that
just
shit.
killing it, man. I get it, I get it. But yeah, I so the next 6 games the Cavs have here before we move on. So the Cavs play the Heat tomorrow, and then they follow that up with the Magic on Monday, and then they have a not a back to back, but a home to home game with the Celtics. Um, and then they play the Hawks next Saturday, and then finish that with the Rockets next Monday. So
Very difficult schedule coming up.
Boston is going to be tough. Obviously, the Magic will be a lot better when they're at home, since I assume that's where they're going to play.
Yeah,
I don't.
Miami is tough,
Yeah, and we got blown out by them the last time that we faced them.
and
So
that was at home too, and
I
we
mean,
play them on the road.
the only like for sure wins I feel like are the Hawks
It,
and Rockets, but even the Hawks have always been weird for us to play too. So, um, definitely still a sort of sort of difficult schedule. So we'll see what they do for the next 6 games. Um, it just stinks because like I want to be so excited about this team and so like down for basketball season, and for some reason this year I just haven't. Um,
yeah, it's been tough to
between
get into.
between just the stuff in the off season with Donovan and wanting to leave, which I do think will happen. I think he will leave this team ultimately, which stinks. But again, I said it. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but I said, it seems like this team plays better without him.
Yeah,
Even though they won last night with him, that's great. I'm glad they can, and I hope they get back to that. Um, just weird how every time he's out, they just seem to play better. Um, but it's just been difficult to get into this team because I just don't. I don't believe in JB, and I don't believe that the guys really believe him either. It's been such an up and down year. You've been hearing the other night we lost, and I heard Jared Allen just walked out of the building after the loss. Like, it's just stuff like that just makes you wonder, like, what is our front office guys doing? Like, why have they not like had a serious conversation about, hey, JB, like, get your shit together, or this isn't gonna be your team anymore. We are a very solid roster with a good bit of depth, especially when we are healthy. And right now, it sounds like we are healthy. You need to start producing. I know I don't care how tough the beginning of this year has been in terms of the schedule. You are supposed to be a top 5 team in the East. Act like it, and we just haven't.
yeah.
And I know we still have a decent record, but um, it
Again, again, it's just like what we talked about the Browns defense. It's just like the level of swagger just isn't there anymore,
no, it's
and
not.
they're not playing with that level of swagger. They're very frustrated. Like I said, I went to the game last night. I saw Allen get his 5th foul, like with 7.5 minutes left in that fourth quarter. Walked off, sat down on the bench real quick, kind of like smacked his fist on the ground, then walked back into the locker room to cool off, and then sat in there until about a minute and a half left of the game, and then rejoined the team out onto the court and sat back down on the bench and just waited at the last minute. And you could see like, yeah, he was frustrated with himself, and obviously he was frustrated with the refs. And to be fair, too, a lot of these games that I've been to at home, the refs haven't been very favorable to the Cavs when making calls. It's been a lot of like sloppy calls. I mean, they gave a foul to, I believe it was Evan Mobley, who went up for a block, completely missed the ball and the dude, but it was still called a foul. And just because the guy just cocked his head back and just completely threw the ball like halfway up into the air. And I mean, there's not much you can do when that happens. I mean, yeah, you could challenge it, which I believe the Cavs had another play exactly like that. Again, it was Evan Mobley, and that was gonna be for his fifth foul, but luckily it was overturned on the review because it happened again where he swiped and missed everything, and then so I mean they have been getting calls like that, but I mean those are calls you have to fight through and overcome, and you can't just let that shit get to you. And I think they've been letting a lot of those little things get to them, and JB doesn't help because JB's just the biggest like he argues every single call, and when he does that, it makes everyone do it. Like
Yeah.
the the
Set the
the atti-
example. Yeah, I mean, you just gotta
the
set the example.
the attitude in this team has been very poor,
Yeah.
and I think DG and I think Garland and even Mitchell are trying their best to like have a more positive mindset and bring that to this team, but it just seems like they allowed their frustrations get to the best of them, and I think that's where a lot of those losses come in. Is that they just get so frustrated so fast, and then they just give up leads, and or they go down big. They have to stop getting frustrated, and I think you need a more positive coach in there, and a more like a coach who knows how to make the playoffs, and a very successful playoff coach, and a very successful coach that's made it to the finals and stuff like that. Like it almost makes you wish you kind of kept Ty Lue in that regard,
Yeah.
because Ty Lue was a very good coach. I mean, I think Budenholzer is available too. Maybe you can go out there and get Budenholzer. I mean, he took the Bucks to a championship.
Yeah.
So I mean, you just go out there and you get a coach who just knows what he's doing, and could just lead.
Yeah, I mean, or even just a guy that the guys can rally around, like a guy that the guys will, really buy in for. Because again, I just don't think they're really bought into JB anymore. I don't know if they really
No.
have, but it just doesn't seem like they're bought in. That's my biggest concern with this team, and that's why it's been tough to watch them because it's
Well, the
just been
biggest
such an inconsistent year.
Well, the funny thing is too, a lot of the frustration too comes in with JB not utilizing guys like Craig Porter more, who comes on and balls out. No, don't get me wrong, like him, Amani Bates, and all them just played the night before
Mm-hmm.
and just traveled back to Cleveland from like Detroit or something because they were playing like Motor City in Detroit.
Man.
So they just came back from a trip. So that's why none of them were on the bench last night, which is very understandable.
Right.
I mean, so you want them to rest, but again, it's one of those situations where you wish you saw more Craig Porter come in, or you saw more Imani Bates, guys who could come in
Sam
and
Merrill, like
guys who could come in and score and get buckets when you need them and play good defense, because those guys are good defensively and they're very good offensively too. Like those are some of the pieces you need, and
it's not
I
like you
don't
need
know.
them to play big minutes there either. Like
No.
you give a guy 8 to 10 minutes, just to give the other guys a rest.
They're great guys to bring on when DG and Mitchell need like at least like 5 or 6 minutes of rest.
Yeah.
And they come on, and it's not like the defense or the scoring are gone. Because those guys can get. I mean, we all saw Craig Porter. He can get to the basket. He's sitting there. I mean, hell, he had like for 2 games in a row, 3 games in a row, he had about 20 points per of those games. Like he was scoring buckets.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't just give that up for nothing. And and I think a lot of it too is that these guys are just run tired. These guys are playing all these games exhausted, and DG and Mitch are playing almost the entirety of the 48 minutes. They're playing like 45 of 48 minutes, and I think that's why you lose, because they get so gassed, and then they can't play defense because they're so exhausted, and that they just get scored on every single possession. And JB's not good with his substitutions, and that's what the main of it is he's not good at substituting.
And you literally said that a few episodes ago as well, as he's just not good with his like rotations. And
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I think that JB needs to stop being a little afraid to really use his guys
bench.
on the bench. Like really, you use your bench. You could easily run 10 deep for a majority of this season, and it'd be okay.
And that's where they get beat every game. If you notice the stats, they get beat because the other team's bench just comes in and scores 35 points off the bench, and the Cavs score like 5 off the bench because I mean, these minutes, Garland played 40, Mitchell played 39, Struss played 35, Mobley played 38. The only one who didn't play almost 40 minutes was Jared Allen because he played 18, 19 because he had those 5 fouls very quickly.
Right.
And so, and again, like listen, the bench players, Okoro and Niang got about 25 minutes each,
Mm.
with Wade getting 14 and Thompson getting 6. And then there's no Porter and Merrill and Jones were on the bench, but again, those guys all played the night before,
Yeah.
and they just got back from a trip, so obviously they're not going to play. But I mean, you're lucky that the team dropped 42% from 3 and 75% altogether.
Yeah.
Or I mean 54%. I was looking at the free throw percentage. And you got lucky that they only made what 2 threes all night. They went 2 for 23 and 3, so luckily Orlando didn't get hot anywhere.
Yeah.
And you still only won by 10 points, but that's because their bench came out and scored a ton of bench points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they had 19 from Anthony, 11 from Wagner, and 8 from Harris. That right there, that's already like 38 points off the bench.
Wow.
Or, excuse me, my math is terrible. Oh, yeah, that's about 38 points.
Yeah.
So, 38 points off the bench, and you had, let's see, 19. And that's where the Cavs
cut it consistently. Like
and that's where the Cavs
you-
get smoked every game.
Yeah.
That's where we get smoked. Every time we lose games, it's because every team scores 40 points off the bench, and we scored 12.
Right. And like, don't get me wrong, it's nice when 3 or 4 of our starting 5 guys can score 15 to 20 points. And they're all capable of doing it per night. Like Struss can do it. You know, obviously Garland and Donovan can. Jared Allen can drop 20 or 30, so you know, every once in a while, and even freaking, you know, Evan Mobley, who really has been so inconsistent this year. But
He
he's
needs to put
also
on some.
totally capable.
He
Of
needs to
doing it
put on
too.
some weight.
Yeah.
I think Mobley's just getting so bodied in the middle, in the paint and stuff like that. I think if he put on some size, he'd really be a dominant force in the NBA.
Yeah, he really would, and it stinks that that is a current thing with him because he's solid. He's a really good player. He can score. It's just also he's like the third or fourth option on on this team. So it's not like he is going to score 20 plus points a game. Like that's just not going to happen. And I know people want to see that out of a former top 5 pick, but it's just not going to happen right now. And that's and that just is what it is. But I do want to make a little switch because we are almost out of time. I wanted to note a few things. First of all, the Guardians. We have not talked to Guardians really ever, but they got the first pick somehow. I don't know. I didn't even know we had lotteries for the baseball draft because the baseball draft is like 100 rounds or something insane.
This is the second year they did the draft lottery.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. And I guess everybody gets thrown in. Like it's just whoever. And somehow the Guardians did. And my only real thing that I wanted to ask, and I know I asked you off air here, but do you think that they dangle that in front of some teams in trades, or do you think they just stick with it and just go with that top draft and just pick up the top guy that they can get?
I mean, I think because I tried finding it because I heard it somewhere too that I think since they just got it and whatnot, they can't use it for trades right now, I believe.
Okay.
So I think what you could do is you could draft the top prospect and then maybe use that as some kind of like trade bait to get someone bigger
Right.
to come in. So, and from what I've seen, literally just, I think it was like yesterday or 2 days ago, the Guardians just went out and got a guy by the name of De Los Santos,
I saw that.
who is a third baseman, but I also believe he's a DH. And he was the Diamondbacks' like 5th best prospect.
Yeah.
So you went out there and you snatched the Diamondbacks a top 5 prospect from the Diamondbacks. So maybe you can use that number 1 pick as some kind of leverage. And you have tradable pieces. You have Shane Bieber, who you could kind of just trade away, and because you have great young pitching and Logan Allen and Tanner Bybee, Gavin, he's a good pitcher as well. So you have great starting pitching. And they're all these guys were rookies too,
Yeah.
mind you, and they dominated. So you already have good starting pitching already.
And
You got
McKenzie.
Yeah, and you have Tristan McKenzie, who's also like 23, 24 years old, who's going to come back from injury and be fully healthy when the season starts. So there's a top four. You just need one more pitcher. I mean, yeah, Shane Bieber can be that guy, obviously,
Right.
but you could use Shane Bieber to get an elite, maybe another elite pitcher, or maybe what you desperately need is an elite bat behind Jose Ramirez.
You really do. Yeah.
So that way you can score some more runs, because the problem is definitely not the defense or the pitching. The problem is you can't score runs
Yeah.
because you have no hitting, and what they need is that they need a hitting outfielder.
Yeah.
No more Miles Straw. Miles Straw is not cutting it, man. He's a great defensive outfielder, but God, he cannot hit to save his life.
I mean, you know who I'm gonna say that I really want. It's the most impossible one, but dude, could you imagine if Cleveland got Otani? Like, could you imagine the level of WTF in this city if we had Otani?
I mean, he did say at the MLB All Star game the
He
one player
loves
he would
Jose.
love.
Yeah, he loves Jose.
They asked him, they're like, "Who's the one player you would love to play in the MLB?" And he said Jose Ramirez.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Let him come to Cleveland.
if that's not a sign, we got the first.
He would be like a little, like he would be the next LeBron. Like everybody would just adore him. And it would bring in more fans because everybody
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a fan of him is just gonna follow him.
Yeah.
So it would be cool, but I mean, I doubt that happens. But it is interesting though that the Angels have looked into Shane Bieber.
You could get Mike Trout too.
I mean, you could. I mean, it'd be
That's a hitting outfielder.
be a shit ton of money, but you know what? at this point,
We got the
fucking
first pick.
send the farm, man. I don't care.
Send everybody. Send the front office. Send the entire organization. We don't need this organization anymore. We'll just get Mike Trout and just him himself.
Just let LeBron own the team. We'll be all right.
Yeah. Get LeBron
But,
to be the owner.
But yeah, it is unfortunate though because it does sound like it's going to be the end of Shane Bieber, which again, he's one of those guys, like
You don't wanna get rid
Kluber
of.
that everybody likes.
Yeah.
But he's just been hurt the last few years. He's clearly not the same. He does not have the velocity that that he used to, and it's just going to come down to that. And although he's still a quality starter, again, he's just going to be like Kluber, where he's just going to kind of go around for a few more years until he's just done. And I think we got everything that we could out of Bieber. Again, I feel for him, and like I will definitely wish him well, but I'm totally ready to move on from him. I saw enough out of our young guys last year to really give me more confidence that hey, these guys can do it if you just give them a chance and just see what these guys got. Like this league is becoming younger and younger every year, I feel like. So why not ride that wave and have fun? Because you could be another team like the D-backs who just come out of nowhere and fight for a playoff spot and then go to the World Series. So somehow and go, I don't know how I got here, but I'm here. It's one of those things that happens because baseball is just one of those sports. So it'll be nice, and it's also going to be nice to have a new GM and just have a new face in that chair. Obviously it's sad to see Terry go, but at the same time, it's going to be nice to have a fresh face and just a fresh, clean slate with this roster. And let him have his mitts on this roster. So yeah, I think the Bieber experiment's over. But the other thing that I wanted to do before we end this, and this is a personal thing that Andrew really, really wanted for this, Columbus Crew are in the finals.
Sir.
Once again, they are the team. So you are the soccer guy. So I am going to let you say all that you need to. But yeah, Columbus Crew is in the finals.
Yeah, so Columbus Crew, 2-time MLS Cup champions in 2008 into 2020, and now they're back in the MLS Cup again, the second time in 4 years. Seems like the only team in Ohio that can win and that can get to the finals in anything. But hey, at least we have a team who can root for that can actually win something. So there's that at least. But now Columbus and Wilfred Nancy made it to the end, to the MLS Cup final, beating the biggest rival that you could ever beat in the Eastern Conference semis in Cincinnati. Fuck you, Cincinnati. We hate you and everything. So it feels good to beat Cincinnati, but no, the first year head coach in Columbus, Wilfred Nancy, just taking his team all the way. And all I wanted to say was good luck to the boys. They play Saturday at 4 p.m. if you can. If you have Apple TV, tune in. Go to a friend's house if they have Apple TV. Watch the game. 4 p.m. Eastern time will be kickoff. And I mean, this is a chance for, again, Ohio sports to have a title. And especially, too, since this is more for Northeast Ohio fans who, like me, Zach, support the Browns, the Guardians, the Cavs, the Browns, because Columbus is the only soccer team that's closest to us. So it's just like rooting for Ohio State. They're part of Northeast Ohio. It's the team that's the only team in Northeast Ohio that seems that they can win a title, man. Yep. And they have the opportunity. The game is in Columbus, so if you want to go down to Columbus and party, the game will be in Columbus. I bet you it's gonna be popping. It's gonna be lit. It's gonna be very vibey. So I highly recommend going to Columbus, watching the game. Like I said, go to a friend's house, watch it. Ask a bar if they have Apple TV, have them turn it on. Just find a way to support this team because we have a real winner on our hands, and I think they got the best opportunity to win on Saturday and bring home another title to the state of Ohio, especially Northeast Ohio and middle of Ohio. So come on, Columbus, let's go Crew. Let's win this shit, man. We gotta win this thing.
Yes, sir. It's so cool to see another team, in Ohio competing for any sort of championship. And what's hilarious too is Jimmy Haslam owns the Crew.
Yeah,
he's the one that saved them from moving. After they won in 2020, there was a chance that they were going to get moved because
it was actually
previous
beforehand.
Ownership. Yeah,
it was in 2018. The previous ownership, they wanted to move the team to Austin, Texas. Anthony Precourt was the guy's name, and he wanted the team to move to Austin, Texas. But luckily, the fans came together. They were at the courthouse and all over downtown, just having. They were out there all day, just sitting there trying to fight for the Crew to stay in Columbus. And thanks to three things. Number one, thanks to the fans, obviously, for saving the club and saving the team and for sitting there protesting the move. Number two, thank you to the Haslams for saving the Columbus Crew and for buying the team off of Anthony Precourt. And number three, thank you to the Art Modell law in the state of Ohio, which says that if you are using tax funds, citizens' tax funds and city funds to fund the stadium, you cannot move the team unless you have the okay from the Ohio government. And the Ohio government said, fuck that. We're not losing a team like we did the Browns. They're staying in Columbus. So thank you to the Art Modell law for keeping the team in Ohio as well, because you can't move a team from Ohio if the stadium is being used by tax dollars and city dollars. So thank
fuck
you for
Art
that.
Modell. Fuck Art Modell.
Fuck Art Modell.
Oh,
but
man.
he gave us a great law that says that no more teams can move out of the state.
We basically screwed up and said never again, and that's what that
never
is.
Again.
So yeah, before we go ahead and sign off here, I do want to get a quick predict for not only the Browns, but I'll also let you do a predict for the Crew here first. Go ahead and give me your prediction for the Crew.
Columbus Crew prediction. I'm gonna go 2-1 Columbus.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Cucho Hernandez and Christian Ramirez to get the goals.
Okay.
I think this is gonna be a big win, and I think the city of Columbus and the state of Ohio have something to celebrate. At least if the Browns don't make the playoffs and the Cavs disappoint us in the playoffs and the Guardians do nothing, at least we have one thing we can celebrate.
Exactly. All right. So now we got Browns versus Jags at home. It's going to be a muddier game. It's going to be a typical Northeast Ohio game in December.
Yep.
This is the type of game that is really more in favor of Joe Flacco. So I expect us to win. I do not expect this to be a high-scoring game at all. I literally think it's going to be like a 16-7 or 9 ball game. This is not going to be a very high-scoring game. It's going to be some field goals and a touchdown or two, and that's it.
I was going to go 17-13.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to say 16-9 is mine.
Yeah.
I don't see us scoring a whole lot. I hope we do, but I think the only way that that happens is if we really run the ball, or if Joe Flacco just decides to go 10 years younger and just balls out in Cleveland, which he could. You never know. He did it the last time he was here when we faced the Jets, but that was in September, so the weather was a lot better for him to do that. But hey, this is a game that he can win. I think we will. Um, Regardless if Trevor plays or not, it's still a good opportunity for this team, but they got to come ready to go. But yeah,
Yeah.
16-9 is my score prediction. Before we hop off, you got anything else? Anything else?
Go Browns and go Crew, baby.
Hell yeah. All right, guys, we will see you next week. See you guys.